Hey everybody, it's Kylie, and today I'm creating this little guy. He's a little watercolor jack-o'-lantern, and I use Tombow dual brush pens to watercolor him, as well as some regular Crayola coloring pencils and a fine liner pen to do this whole look. So definitely watch this video if you want to learn along with me, because I'm learning too. You'll see why. So I've got some watercolor paper, and I'm just using a plain number 2 pencil to sketch out my pumpkin, sketching out the hat first. And this is going to be a really painterly, cute, imperfect on purpose kind of little illustration. So I think the pencil sketch definitely reflects the fact that it's not going to be perfect, guys, but you know, I'm trying to get better at drawing and illustrating, and I'm taking you along on the journey, so you're just gonna have to bear with me. So I'm drawing a little jack-o'-lantern, and he has a little witch's hat on, which I thought was super cute, and then I just wanted to put something simple underneath, which is why I chose the very basic Hey Pumpkin. So I don't know where this is gonna go. I feel like maybe I'll just put it in a frame for our living room. We do have guests over this weekend. We're going to be doing Halloween stuff, and we're going to be carving pumpkins and all that good stuff, so seems like a good time. Moving on, I've got a red, an orange, and like an ochre yellow, I guess you would call it. And these are going to be the colors for my pumpkin. So you've seen me do this in a previous video. If you haven't, this is how I use Tombow dual brush pens as watercolors. You just scribble a little bit of pigment onto this blending pad. You can also use a piece of aluminum foil, a piece of plastic, or something that you already have at home if you don't have a blending kit. And you just get your brush. I'm using a simple round brush full of water, and then you just rub that pigment around on the palette, and it turns into a really nice watercolor. So I'm mixing the orange, ochre, and red together, and this is going to create the pretty fall autumn orange I'm using on my pumpkin. A lot of times I get questions about what's the best beginner watercolor kit for somebody to buy, because I'm still pretty much a beginner when it comes to watercolor. And I always suggest, if you're already lettering, which most of the time my audience does already own several dual brush pens, if not the whole collection, because they're awesome, I'll always suggest to just try this method out first, because you're really using very little pigment. Your pens already last forever, so this is a great way to get some really inexpensive watercolors out and to do a little bit of playing around with them to see if you like watercolor. Now I'm dropping in a little bit of green because I like my pumpkins to have some different colors going on, but I'm just going to do a little hint of green because I don't want to muddy up the orange. Now I'm just taking that ochre, and I'm going to do some kind of little swirly some little swirly patterns. I don't know what they're called. I don't really know. I guess it's like the autumn wind is blowing around our pumpkin friend here. Now we're getting to the good stuff. I consider this dude's hat my pride and joy as far as illustration goes, because I thought it looked really good. When we get to the end, you'll see. But I'm just doing the little band around his hat, or her hat, of a nice purple color, because purple, this color purple, always reminds me of Halloween, and I think that's why I don't ever really gravitate toward purple, because to me it's such a Halloween color. But I love it. And I've got a brand new black dual brush pen, which you'll see is so good for watercolor. It makes the best black watercolor. It's really pigmented, and it's really smooth and easy to work with, and I was really surprised at how pigmented this black really is. I thought I was actually going to have to use a regular actual watercolor for this part, but I didn't. It's totally okay if things are blending together, because I've got a few little tricks that can fix that, but all in all, I actually think it looks pretty good. I'm a fan of the painterly sort of look, so it doesn't bother me at all. And this is where I remembered that I should have colored his teeth orange, so I'm just going to go back in with a little red and orange and fill in his teeth. And this is also where I end up giving our sweet pumpkin a mustache, which I guess he is a man, because he is going to have a watercolor mustache on accident. It's totally my fault, but you practice and you learn, so now I know. And it's funny because I just checked to see if his little hat had dried before moving on to the next step, and after seeing that it had not dried, I went ahead and went on to do the lettering at the bottom. You'll see why that's funny in just a moment, but I really am not crazy about how the lettering turned out, and that's my fault. I shouldn't have used this brush. It looks alright. I don't hate it, but I think I would have done a little better of a job. I didn't really do the lettering that well. The pencil sketch wasn't great to work with, so that's my fault, but I still want to show you all everything because, you know, hopefully there's something in here that you can learn. One of my favorite things to do with watercolor is to add detailing and extra shading with a pencil. And this is where I say it's hilarious that I was so diligent in checking to see that his hat was dry, because I just completely smeared the pumpkin, the word pumpkin. Like, look at it. And I don't even know. I haven't even realized it yet. So I'm just happily adding in my detailing with colored pencil, and I'm just completely oblivious to the fact that I ruined it, as my dad would say. I ruined it, but we're gonna fix it because I have the greatest thing ever. So can't wait to get to that part. But I really, really like how the colored pencil adds a lot of detail and depth, and it adds to the really like cute artistic illustration quality. I really like that kind of illustration. I like things to be a little bit imperfect. Maybe that's because I'm defensive about how imperfect my work is, but oh well. Now I'm using a mono drawing pen, and this is the 5 size, I believe, to add an outline. Oh, I'm realizing what an idiot I am, and I smudged it, but I'm like, no worries, we're gonna fix it. So I love this step. I think it sets everything off. First, you've got the colored pencil. Then you go in with a fine liner. You could use a micron, any kind of little fine tip pen, and you go in and you add that hatching in there that creates the illusion of shadows and just gives it a lot of depth and makes everything look really good and like a sweet little illustration, which if you can't tell, it's what I'm going after here. So I was really happy with how this turned out, and like I said, the hat is my total pride and joy from this little illustration. I should have just done the hat and nothing else. Okay, we're doing the awesome thing now. This is the Tombow Mono Sand Eraser, and it sands paper down, so I'm able to remove all of those smudges thanks to this eraser. I can't tell you how many times this eraser has totally saved the day for a custom project or for situations like this when I totally mess stuff up. I was able to make it look like it never happened. So that's awesome. I'm totally in love with this eraser. I have 2 or 3 in my stash because I would never ever want to be without one. I have this linked in the blog post that goes with this and also in the description box down below. So if you want to pick one up, you can click that link and grab yourself 2 or 3 while you're at it. Treat yourself. Happy Halloween. Now I'm filling in the jack-o'-lantern's face with some yellow because I wanted him to be lit up from the inside, like a happy little pumpkin. Adding in some detail to Mr. Pumpkin so that he looks really cute. And I don't know, I like how it turns out. If I could do it again, I would. I might, and then show you. You always learn something every time you create, so maybe doing it a second time, it would turn out much better. Who knows? Then I was like, maybe I'll fix this lettering, and I was like, no, it cannot be fixed. It's horrible. So I'm just gonna go back to the pumpkin because he's where the party's at, and he's the only saving grace to this whole thing. Now I'm just going back in with an eraser. I'm erasing those pencil marks, and I wanted to show you this in slow motion. Well, actually it's real time, because look, you can erase pencil marks from underneath the Tombow Dual Brush Pen Watercolor. It's awesome. So you can sketch on the paper, leave the pencil marks there. Don't worry about having to erase them later, because with a really good eraser, you will be able to remove all of the pencil marks and you'll look like a darn professional. So get yourself a good eraser. And basically, guys, that's it. I think, like I said, this is gonna go on the refrigerator or in a frame in my living room just until we get done celebrating Halloween. I hope you enjoyed today's little video full of ups and downs and life lessons and art lessons. I'll see you next week. I hope you have a fabulous Halloween. Bye.